Okay, so I'm just going to dive right in. This is my trailer. It's a Rockwood. It's 31 feet. And what I use to glue down the PVC, because I used PVC, I didn't use TPO or EPDM, because PVC is easy to repair and it's pretty thick. I use Lucas 8800, 1.5 pails of this. These are half-gallon pails of for the glue, and I used Lucas 6600 for the caulk. I don't know if I have a picture of the caulk, but anyway, moving along, I used a cat's paw and I took whatever screws I could out, but at the end of the day, the front and the back pieces of trim ended up just being pulled out. Again, a lot of screws the heads were just kind of, they tore off, or they were just rusted, so I ended up having to Dremel a lot of screws off and use a cutoff wheel. So one thing I will tell you is that I would do differently than the way I did it, was to get the membrane up here on the roof before you start taking the stuff off, because I live in Florida and it was supposed to be a sunny day, but it ended up raining. And I don't know if you can see all the way up here, but this is where the air conditioner used to be, the top hole right there. And that created kind of a sump. So instead of the water draining off the sides over here where it should, it ended up going through that hole or this one. So we ended up having a really bad thunderstorm and the rain just poured right in the house, and it funneled everything that hit the roof into the house, and it was just buckets and buckets a minute into my living room for a couple hours. Okay, so right here you can see this is the gutter being removed. There's a lot of butyl tape underneath that. That's that mud stuff. And I'm not a professional, by the way. I'm sure you can already tell that. I'm just trying to share my experience with doing this for the first time, and show you what you might expect. Over here you can see, well, I'm pulling you can't really see it, I'm pulling the membrane off the side. Can't really see it there. That's not a good picture. But okay, so I included these pictures, this picture right here, just to kind of give you an idea of what not to do. I found some rotten wood, and I ended up trying to restore it. Instead of just cutting it out and putting a $10 piece of luan over it, I spent about $50 in fiberglass and Tight Bond 2, just fiberglassing this. And it's a total waste of time. Do it the right way. I recommend it. It's still pretty stable now, but this is probably a couple months after I did this. Not gonna lie, the new skin on the trailer really bolstered the structural integrity. And this is essentially what I did, is to just reskin. I used one thing I would not use is brads or anything out of a nail gun, because they will tend to come up. They'll start poking up when you walk around on the plywood, and that, to me, it just creates a perfect storm for holes in the membrane, and I don't want that. I don't want that, especially right after doing it. So that's part of the membrane, and you can see up here I'm reskinning a lot of this stuff. This is the wood underneath, and the glue it's one of those kinds of glue that doesn't totally dry. It just stays tacky. So you'll need some knee pads to walk around on this stuff, because otherwise you'll be like I was doing before I got some. The first couple hours of this, I was waxing my knees every time I moved around. It hurt like hell. So this is me reskinning, and to do these things right here, Okay, so I'll show you this. This is, I just used duct tape to use as kind of a barrier right here, so there's nothing sticking up. And over here, I use a hole saw. Let me see if I can find it. I use a hole saw to cut these vent holes, and that's what I did. Is just reskinned it. And one thing you'll notice is the absence of skylights. And I'm a night shift worker, and I covered all those skylights. I just covered them because I had them covered before with blackout shades, and the kids are asleep when I'm asleep in the morning, or they're playing their tablets. They're really young, and I don't want them up and moving around. I want them laying down. So it needs to be dark. I can always install those if I really want to, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So again, that's the membrane. That's my heat gun. You definitely need a heat gun. Over these holes, I just skinned over them, and on the underside, I would put like a little slat, like something that's about 8 inches wide, and I just moved it up under there just to create kind of a bulge so that water wouldn't collect there. Because what I noticed is if you don't get all this done in one day, then I mean, if it's in Florida anyway, I had this thing rained on because I still had to go to work, and I still had to take care of life. Water tends to collect on this PVC, and if you can get a decent amount of water on it, it will help to hold it down onto the roof before it's glued down. But in these holes, water will tend to just kind of form, and it'll form kind of a dip. So I mean, it can be a blessing and a curse if you're trying to keep it on the roof and it's windy. But I ended up having to just tear this old EPDM off, just in strips. Excuse me. I ended up just tearing it off in strips, and I tried to bundle a lot of it up, and I ended up wadding it up, and I tried to use tie downs and tie those together and see if I could maybe just pull it off in one big piece with the car. But really, the thing that actually worked for me was heating up my all-in-one tool with the heat gun, and then doing that, and then scraping, instead of just heating the rubber. Because if you just heat the EPDM, it's a lot longer to heat, and the glue is still tacky even when it's hot. It's kind of that never dry glue, and it's just, I found it a lot easier to scrape off with a hot knife instead of the heat gun on the actual rubber. Okay. The gutter, the EPDM goes underneath the gutter, and that's how I did the PVC also. But right here, I'm taking the gutter off. A lot of this is just disassembly, and there's butyl tape in between the gutter and the membrane. That's kind of the all-purpose sealant for RVs. I mean, these things they're held together with just construction adhesive and staples, liquid nails and staples. It's not particle board, but possibly worse, because this stuff, when you're pulling it will come up, like the top layer of luan will just come off like a sheet of paper sometimes. This is the refrigerator vent. Pay special care to this. I put my membrane over this while I was working and sleeping, because I do 12s. And the freezer wouldn't quite freeze anything, so this needs to stay vented to the best of your ability. Let's see how. Okay, so right here I just took a picture of this because I wanted to show you this is the Phylon right here. You can't, it's just a thin layer of plastic. And on the inside is glued a piece of luan, piece of wood. So it's just fiberglass. It's not plastic, excuse me, it's fiberglass. Fiberglass over wood. And I fortunately did not have any of this inner wall get wet. Or, I mean, it got wet, but it wasn't rotten. Because once you start getting the walls rotten, you have to replace that. And there is a certain way that you can peel off the fiberglass layer and put a new layer of luan, but it's tedious. It's tedious just for what you have to do. And over the, let's see here, over top of the, so here's what you can see the membrane is skinned. Okay, so one thing I did want to touch on is, see, here's the skylight from the inside. You can imagine what happened. So when you roll out this Lucas 8800, it just takes a thin coat. It doesn't even take a coat. You just roll it out over that. Just put some tacky, make the wood tacky. That's really all you have to do. But it just takes a super thin coat to do this. It doesn't take much. And I just used a piece of trim, of doorway trim for the upper. So I found something I had trouble finding stuff that was 8 foot wide that I would be comfortable using. So the membrane, I used 3 ratchet straps. One of them was 40 feet because I had to go over the slide out. So that was a box and I had to tie them together. But I used 3 different ratchet strap sets to hold the membrane on. I will tell you that once it was glued down, it held up. The glue itself without any of the gutters screwed on, or without the front and back trim pieces screwed on to the end cap, it held up in 40-mile-an-hour gusts. So that's reassuring. These little things right here, I did not screw those down. What I did when I cut these vents, these are just the vents, I just cut a cross in the top of the pipe. I cut a cross in the PVC and just pulled it down really snug over that vent, and then I just kind of taped it down with butyl tape, and you can see the butyl tape there. And I later caulked around it with some 6600, but I didn't want to put any more screws in this than I have to. And as you can see, this is, I'm not a pro. There's still some I had a very difficult time making this flat, not gonna lie, just because it was big, and just unfolding it just took a lot of muscle. It's really a 2-person job. I did actually hike this up on 2 ladders on my shoulder, but it's a 2-person job. And the caulk is Lucas 6600, and I like it because it seems to stay very flexible. It just stays flexible for a long time. It's not like the really cheap caulk that just gets really hard. I don't know if you've ever used caulk from like the dollar store or something. It just gets really hard. Well, this stays flexible. Now when I put the membrane down, I did apply glue, a little bit of glue underneath here. And in order to get this stuff off, if you can see right here, there's like a little bit of caulk. This is just it. Once you unscrew the gutter, there's going to be caulk left. And on here, I don't know how, you probably can't see it very well, but this is, well, that's the front, but there's butyl tape on the back, and a lot of butyl tape gets left behind on the actual trailer. But the way to get this off is, again, to heat your all-in-one up with a heat gun, and it'll just slice right through it. But it's got to be really hot. It's got to be pretty hot. So you guys can leave any questions in the comments, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Again, I'm not a pro. I'm just a do-it-yourselfer that did this for the first time, and so far it's turned out right. Okay, so I do need to comment on this though. So this is, hang on. This appears to be, no, that's part of the gutter. This is the butyl tape on the back of the gutter. And again, you get that off with a hot knife. Okay, what I was going to say is on the end caps, I didn't take any pictures of this. Make sure that the membrane goes over the top of the end cap and is screwed down over the top instead of going under, because otherwise the water will eventually seep down and it'll just start running over your walls. So make it go over the top. And also the gutters, the way I put them together was, okay, so you have the outside of the trailer, and then I put a little bit of glue. I put down the PVC membrane as best I could, and then I put butyl tape on the back of the gutters all along the back, and then I just glued it on, and then caulked the top. I didn't caulk the bottom of the gutter because I want water to be able to escape, but I caulked the top. So I'm sorry I didn't have a GoPro or any videos. Again, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments, and I'll do the best I can to answer them. Thanks guys for watching. Have a great day.